All right, everybody, we are back with another episode of Wealth for the Culture, man. I got a guest on today. I'm gonna hype him up a little bit before he give his introduction. This first person I've ever had real estate. We've had real estate people on here, but I've never had nobody with over 200 doors. So I don't know how that breakdown is. We're gonna find out soon enough. But 200 doors—that's no small feat. He was an engineer previously. Now he's financially free, man, doing what he got to do. He out there in the H. You already know how he rock in Houston, man. I'm from the H, man. So that's home right there. So gotta represent, man. His name is Ed Davis, man. How are you doing, brother? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, bro. I appreciate that intro, man.
Yes, sir. And so, normally how I like to get this going, man, I like to get a little bit of a background about my guest, your upbringing, if money was a thing, entrepreneurship was a thing coming up, things of that nature.
Absolutely, man. So you being from Houston, you probably know the hood I grew up in. I'm just a kid from South Park, which
Okay, yeah.
if you're from Houston, you know that it ain't the best neighborhood, but we know how to make it do what it do, right?
Yes, sir.
And I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, right? My mom, my dad, both my grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody had some kind of a side hustle. And for many of them, that side hustle was their main hustle, but they kind of struggled a little bit, right? We never was at a point where we couldn't eat or couldn't take care of ourselves, but those luxury vacations and those items that were kind of, up there, we weren't able to do because we were in a position of trading hours for dollars, right? So as a family of entrepreneurs, what I later learned in life through reading books from, Robert Kiyosaki and stuff like that, is that we were not business owners. Instead, we were self-employed, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Right. So we all just owned a job. And so it was through my experience coming up in those family businesses that made me want to go to college. Right.
Okay.
I thought college was gonna be the easy road, Instead of having to bust my ass in my grandpa's hardware store, I could go and sit down at a job where I had this set schedule and this whole thing mapped out, planned out for me. And all I got to do is one or two things, and I'm in a good life forever, right? But you know how that is. Once you get into that thing, you realize it's not yours, and they don't have your best interests at heart. So
yeah.
I decided to take that engineering career and double down on real estate. And lo and behold, that's where we are now.
This is crazy because I don't come across too many people that like grew up in an entrepreneurship household and then said, "Nah, I'm gonna just take the 9 to 5 route." So that's something. They're like, what even made you go that route? Because a lot of people, you hear them starting in that entrepreneur. Like I've talked to a couple people, they started, their parents were entrepreneurs, and then they went on to start their own businesses. But you went the opposite route.
Yeah, well, my parents started a business when I was a senior in high school, right? And I saw the hardships of creating a business from nothing, right? Starting from scratch. I was in the DECA program in high school.
Okay, I remember
that. Yeah. So I got out of school at 10 o'clock in the morning, and guess what? I went to set up that business and help my parents get things off the ground. And so I understood the hardship of getting a business off the ground. I also did not like the fact that we worked 7 days a week, and even when we was off, we were still thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
So for me, going to college was a route where I knew if I put in this work to get this engineering degree, doing something that I love, right? I love electronics. I got an electrical engineering degree. I like video games. I like technology. I thought that by going that route, I'd be living my dream life. But I quickly realized that working for somebody else ain't where it's at.
Working 60, 70 hours, still getting the same paycheck. Oh, man.
Absolutely. They had me up to 66 hours, man, getting a 40-hour check. 6 days a week, 11 hours a day, plus a 2-hour round trip commute. I said, oh, no, this ain't going to work.
Hey, see, people be thinking that 9 to 5 life, sweet, that salary life. They love thinking that, don't get me wrong, it got its benefits because, I utilize my 401k and stuff to do different investments now because I learned that stuff. But
yeah,
you get away from it, man. I'm on my journey right now. So
absolutely, that's 6 figures. It wasn't so sweet after I realized how much of my actual life I was giving up in exchange for that, right? And so when I went off to college, it was to escape trading hours for dollars in my family owned businesses, right? But then when I got to corporate America, I realized, hey, this is the same game. What's going on here, right? But I remember that, you know, whenever we struggle financially, or I needed money for college, or, you know, somebody in the family needed money for their house note, or behind on a cable bill or something like that, I remember that the two staples in my family were my grandparents.
Okay.
And one of the ways that my grandparents were able to, you know, help out everybody in the family without giving up their own personal lifestyle was through their real estate investments, right?
Okay.
And so that's what got my mind turning when I was like, hey, this job ain't working out for me the way I wanted to. I'm getting the money, but I'm missing important family events. I'm not doing what I want. That's when I went back to real estate, and I was like, look, how could I do this thing without having to trade hours for dollars and really scale this thing up? And me being an engineer, I just started to reverse engineer that thing and create the lifestyle I wanted.
That's crazy. So your parents, did they like push the college thing for you, or it was just something you just naturally like, this is what I want to go do?
You know, college was one of those things I wasn't too sure about up until the day I got there, to be honest with you.
Where you go to school at?
I went to PV.
I almost ended up out there. I almost ended up out there for football.
Yeah. So, so my grandpa, he went to college, but we rarely talked about it because he was an entrepreneur. But outside of that, I had two uncles that were currently in college, and nobody else really in my family who had gone to school. So in high school, I was kind of on the fence about, am I going to go or not? My parents encouraged it because, you know, to them, their thought process was, you know, knowledge is power. If you continue to further your education, you'll have more opportunity. So they encouraged it, but it was also like, hey, we still need you to be here at work. So figure out how to do that college thing after work.
And that's crazy. I'm glad you hit on that, because it's crazy because you went for engineering, and it's a lot of times I've talked to people on this show, and we kind of throw out that whole thing like, is college a scam type deal? Because, you know, some people that go to college, like, I know when I went to college at first, like, I went for engineering, but I was playing ball, and that was too much to handle. And so then I was like, I don't even really know what I want to do. And a lot of people do that. They'll go to college, don't know what they want to do, end up just going to do the partying thing and all that, get in a whole bunch of debt, and then they come out and they get on that hamster wheel. They're just, you know, chasing their tail. And so that's interesting that you went into engineering. Not only did you go into engineering, get a 6-figure job, and you walked away from it to go do your own thing. And that's what I want to know, because it's easy, I feel like, for people to walk away from jobs like, you know, you making like, you know, $30,000. Yeah, it's real easy to step away from that. But you stepped away from a 6-figure job. So what went through your mind when you actually decided to walk away from that? Like, what was that like?
You know, my whole thing in life has always been about freedom. And I didn't realize that until I started reading books and understanding. I just knew that, like, even with my grandpa, when I would come to work, I show up late. He owned the place, right? But I show up late. I'd be there. I'm supposed to be there at 8. I show up 8:15, 8:30, whatever.
Yeah.
And I walk in and I'll be like, hey, good morning. He'd be like, oh, you think you own the place? Good afternoon. Right? But when I got into corporate America, I came with that same attitude, right? Hey, as long as I get my work done, leave me alone. And I realized that didn't work. And so when I started to think about the lifestyle that I wanted, the ability to just kind of come and go as I please, the ability to provide for my family at will, and then to be constantly working on myself and become the best version of me that I could possibly be, I realized that I was never going to accomplish that goal underneath somebody else's rules and regulations. And so the 6 figures became less attractive because I was already living below my means, right? So, you know, as an investor, it's like you make money at work, but you never spend it all, right? And so the 6 figures for me wasn't all that attractive. What was really attractive was the ability to just like go for a walk in the park in the middle of the day, or show up to my little cousin's graduation, because not too many of us actually graduate and go off to college, to you know, be there for my little sister or whatever it may be. Those were the things that I wanted in life. So that 6 figures didn't really matter.
You just hit on something deep right there too. That top, like people don't realize. To me, a lot of people talk about wealth and attaining wealth, and they think it's got to be monetary. They think it's an amount to like, oh, if I hit this, 7 figures, eight, whatever number they
Yeah,
have in their head, that's what wealth is. And a lot of times, I have to tell people in my family this, like they think I'm just so money hungry. I'm like, nah, I just understand that the money is gonna give me my time back. Like if I can figure out
yeah,
a way to get something going that's gonna cover, like I tell people, like people always think about, oh, I need to cover I need this much money, like let's say like $110,000 a month. But really all you gotta do, like you were just mentioned, you had you live below your means, so your cost of living wasn't expensive. So all you had to do was figure out a way to cover your expenses. And once you figure out a way to cover your expenses, you really are financially free.
yeah.
That's what people don't
Absolutely,
realize. And then you don't
absolutely.
have to go punch a clock no more for nobody, do nothing that you don't want to do, and that's the beauty of it.
Absolutely, right? So a good $4,000 to $5,000 a month will change your life, right? Especially if you don't have to go to work in order to get it. If that money is just coming in every month with little to no effort on your end, your whole life will be completely different. So for me, that became the focus, and I started out with a duplex, right? A
Okay, so
duplex
you house hack?
right in South Park,
Yeah.
right? Bought that duplex with $60,000 of instant equity. So
Yeah.
60K right there, that's enough for you to quit your job if you just want to live off of the equity. You can quit your job at that moment. But I still got the cash flow coming from the property, right? For the rest of my life, I always have a place to go to live if I need somewhere to be. And guess what? It's in the community that I grew up in where my family is. So that was my first swing at it. And that changed the whole game from there.
How old were you got that first property?
Oh Lord, you asking me age. Okay, 2012. So I'm 36 now. 20. I think I was 27.
Oh wow. That's crazy.
Yeah,
See, I'm just saying that's what I'm in the process of looking for right now. I'm in the process of looking for a property, but it's crazy out here in Dallas right now. Yeah,
yeah.
but that is crazy. And I want people to understand like the house hacking thing. Like a lot of people don't take advantage of that, or they use that. I guess just use the FHA. I'm assuming, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't use that FHA, go buy their dream home when they can really strategically maneuver and place themselves up on
Nah,
a whole path to success, especially with house hacking. That's probably like and you said you got it with 60K in equity. Like that is crazy to me that you got that much equity in the property
yeah.
just off the purchase.
Off the rip, man. And the property was in move-in condition,
Oh wow.
right?
So you ain't have to do no rehabbing now.
Nah, I actually over rehab because I came in feeling like, oh, you see everybody you're supposed to rehab the property when you get it, not understanding my market and my customer at that time. I put more energy and effort into making this thing look brand new when it didn't need to be because that's not what my customer base was used to. And so I've learned throughout this process, how to understand my market and how to not over rehab, how to save more money. But I really could have got away with just going in there in a good clean and everything would have been done.
Man, and so how many doors you got now? Exactly. Like, how many you got now? Because this is crazy to me.
So, so I'm currently up to 215 doors. That is that's between Texas, Florida, and Michigan. My wife and I
Okay.
are partners, and we do everything together. So I ain't the only one behind this thing, but we also have focused on building out a very strong team because our whole goal has been financial location and time freedom. And since those things are the most important to me, I've always been focused on building out a team so I don't have to deal with any of the tenants, any of the toilets, any of the day-to-day operations. I'm sitting back on autopilot. And I've done that since the very first property. And I believe that is the reason that we've been so successful in being able to scale is because we're not trying to do it all ourselves.
So you got your systems in place, and that's something I was going to ask y'all because I was like, especially with you have three different states. You got 215 doors. Are these like primarily like I'm gonna assume at this point you didn't have to? It can't be single family. It's got to be like apartments in there somehow.
Yeah, man. So we done mixed the portfolio up at this point. It's constantly being readjusted and shifted, so it just kind of depends on where I'm at. But right now, I got a 72 unit right outside of Houston. That's Lake Jackson. You familiar with Lake Jackson up
I,
288?
I heard the area. Yeah, I ain't never been out that way though.
Yeah, so I got a 72 unit out there. I got a 100+ unit out in Orlando, Florida. And then the rest is single families in Detroit, Houston, and other small areas around
Hey, we gotta take a pause. Man. That's crazy, man. Dang. And see, people I haven't really got too deep into the real estate thing yet. So some people hear stuff like that, like how, I guess, because you teach this, so it's easy to ask you, how attainable is this for somebody to get started into the real estate game and kind of get on that path to creating a financial freedom?
Yeah. So it's 100% possible for the person that believes in themselves, right? And so what I find is that most of the time when we don't believe in ourselves, is one or two reasons. Either we have negative people in our ear or negative things that we're saying about ourselves. Okay. And the best way to combat that is to get away from that negativity. If you are, and the second thing is we're not educated. We don't understand the process, so we're afraid. There's the fear of the unknown. So what I say to that is to educate yourself. I started out reading books. Library is free, right? You can go to the library. You can get 5, 6, 7, 10 books at a time. And that's what I would do. I would go to the library. They even have audio books at the library. So I went from paying, $30, $40 back in the day at Borders. Borders ain't even open no more, right? But I would go to Borders and I'd pay $30 or $40 for an audio book. And then I realized, wait, I can get this from the library for free. And now we got things like Audible. I keep my Audible. I always preload that thing with a bunch of credits, right? But I educate myself. When you educate yourself, you're able to change your thought process, which is going to, anything negative that you're saying to yourself or anything negative that other people are saying to yourself, you're combating that now with the education. You're overcoming that fear because you're getting exposure to it via your imagination and the things that you're hearing and reading. So now we got the fear out the way. Once the fear is out of the way, now you want to focus on, well, what's the process look like? Mm-hmm. Well, typically to get your first property, I always recommend that you do a house hack. You're going to need 3.5% down if you use an FHA. If you're in the military, you can use your VA loan. You don't need nothing down, right? So once you have your down payment, typically I would say that your down payment is going to be anywhere from, your down payment and closing costs are going to be anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000. So there are so many different options and ways that you can come up with this money, right? I've seen on your page many times you talked about the fact that you can use your retirement, right? Many people don't know that. You can use a credit card to purchase a property. You can use savings. It can be a gift from a family member. You can sell or liquidate some of your stock or crypto. You got so many options on how you can fund your first property, right? But once you get past the funding, the only other thing you need is a credit score. And I always tell people that the best thing is to have a 680 or higher. But you know what? They got programs out there like NACA where you can get it done with a 580. Right? So those two things, or really three things, if you have the belief in yourself, if you have the down payment and closing costs, which is typically between $8,000 and $12,000, and you had that 680 or higher credit score, you're ready to get in the game. The only thing in your way at that point is you. And you just gotta constantly combat that, which is something that you're gonna live with for the rest of your life, because I deal with it now. Right? You don't just jump into $215. There's a lot of fear that comes with that. What ifs, right? So it's possible for anybody who wants to do it.
I got a couple questions, right? Because you mentioned like having to overcome fear, and so that comes along with like personal development. And I know you a coach, but my question to you is, because a lot of people don't, you may or may not have one, but do you have like a coach of your own or like some type of mentor figure for you?
Yeah, man. So the odd thing about it is I constantly keep a coach. Right now I have 4 coaches. I pay $7,500 a month for my coaching and development. And that's because I always say that I want to be the best I can be. And I believe that when you sit down with a coach, they help unlock things inside of you that you didn't know were there. And a good coach should help you go bigger, better, faster towards whatever your goal is. So I'm always looking for the hack, the cheat code, the quickest way to the lifestyle of my dreams. So I always keep a coach. And just being honest with you, $215 was nowhere on my radar, right? It was a coach that unlocked me to the idea that I could do it, and not just do it, but I could do it now. And so if you want me to, I kind of tell that story a little bit.
Hey, I want to hear that because I want to know now. Like, what was your original thought? Like, what were you trying to get to?
So when my original goal, when I was sitting in my 1-bedroom apartment, I wasn't engaged, I wasn't married, I had no plans for the family yet. I'm just going to work, and the job, I don't hate the job. It's just I've realized that no job whatsoever, is really for me, right? So I had a good job with a good salary, with what most people would say, man, this is great. But I knew job and me just kind of don't work. So when I was back at that point, I was sitting down and I was mapping it out, and I was like, look, if I buy a duplex, I can rent the duplex out for $1,250 per door, right? And so I realized that after paying all of the bills and all of the expenses and hiring my team, and so I don't have to management or do any of the maintenance or anything like that, I would make $1,000 a month profit. So my original goal was just to get 4 duplexes. All I wanted was 8 doors, and I'm done.
That's it. Hey, okay.
Right? So my mentality was, if I make $1,000 a month for me and $1,000 a month for my wife, and then I have 2 kids and each kid gets $1,000 a month, that's $4,000 a month. We good. And I know I got time before those kids actually need $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to invest that money and do other things. So that was my original goal. Mapped that out in my apartment.
Hey.
Got it hung up on my wall. I done cut out little pictures. I'm writing dates on the wall, everything, right?
Yeah.
And as I got started in that process, I bought my first property. That thought process I came up with one weekend, right? So I wasn't really big on clubbing. My thing was I would buy different technology, and that was back when CDs used to come out on iTunes. I download my favorite album, and I'm locked in for the weekend, right? And so it was just one weekend of me sitting around saying, you know what, I had enough. I can't do this for another 40 years. And so I sat down and I mapped out that little plan that I just told y'all. And a lot of times when people come to me, they say, I can't get my spouse on board, right? That one plan was what got my wife on board. She wasn't my wife at the time. She was just my girlfriend, real strong like, right? And I was like, look, this is my game plan. This is what I plan on doing. She's like, I'm down with that. And so once I knew she was rocking with it, I set out on that mission. We bought the duplex. After we bought the duplex, 6 months later, we bought the next house. So when you mentioned earlier, like, don't buy your dream house first, we bought that duplex in February. In September, we bought a nicer house.
Hey,
right?
Move.
So after that, then the whole strategy was like, okay, let's buy more properties, but let's do it at a healthy rate, a healthy pace. And so I knew that I needed to learn more about, taxes. I needed to learn more about developing a team. I needed to learn more about how to scale, OPM, right? Other people's money, all of that kind of stuff. And so I hired a coach. Now this coach was in Detroit, Michigan. That's where my wife was born, right? So I decided one day, you know what? I'm just gonna move to Detroit. So we packed all our stuff into the back of our Jeep, and we drove out to Detroit, Michigan. And we were looking to buy properties. And as I was there looking to buy properties, I ran into a guy I didn't even know. I wasn't there looking for him. I was just going to the auction to buy some properties cash and to get them for cheap. And a series of what I thought at the time of unfortunate events, like my wife forgot to register us for the auction. So we weren't able to bid on any properties. So that required us to scramble. We've always been problem solvers. Whenever we run into a challenge, we're just like, all right, cool, no big deal. That's what the universe meant to happen. Let's figure out how to shake this thing in our way. So so we end up going, and she makes phone calls to all of her high school classmates. Hey, I'm back in the city. I'm supposed to be buying properties, and I don't have a registration for the auction. Can anybody plug me with somebody? And one of her high school classmates, actually her sister's high school classmate, was like, "Yeah, I gotta I registered for the auction. Y'all can slide through on mine as long as you put the money up front, and I don't have to worry about losing my license." So we was like, bet. And through that relationship, that's how we met my soon-to-be coach at that time. And so I'm in there just talking, bidding on properties, and this guy comes up to us and he's like, "What y'all doing here?" And I'm like, "We here bidding on properties." And at that time, I didn't realize that the building we were in, he owned it. Okay. And so we just sparked up good conversation. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm a real estate investor, and I can show you the ropes." And I was like, "All right, well, bet." We literally moved to Detroit that weekend. And the next 90 days working with this guy, he's done over $2 billion worth of real estate transactions in the city of Detroit alone.
You said $2 billion?
$2 billion, right? Yeah. He bought 4,400 units in 1 year. He owns he's built casinos, he's built entire neighborhoods and communities, just anything you can think of related to real estate. He set me down, gave me a crash course, brought me into all of the meetings with the city officials and everything in a 90-day period. Totally changed my mind. Right? I could live my entire life and not got that experience. So I'm a huge advocate of hiring a coach to help me. And the reason I believe in paying him, I paid the man, right? The reason I believe in paying him is because that's the only way I'm going to get your attention. Right? There's a lot of people that's like, "Oh yeah, I'll help you out." They'll give you one or two things, and then they got to get back to making their money. They got to get back to doing what they do. So I paid the man, so now I have his undivided attention. He's bringing me into situations that I would never be in the rest of my life. And through that experience, he was like, "Look, I've seen your balance sheet. Like, I understand what you have saved up. I know your credit. I understand your ability to understand and grasp concepts. If I present it to you, you understand it and you be ready to run with it." So he said, "Look, you should buy an apartment complex." I was like, "Nah."
That's crazy.
Right? And so he was like, "Look, you can buy an apartment complex. I'm very confident that you can do it." I said, "Well, how?" He said, "Let's hop in the car." So he put me in the car. We rode down the street. And as we was riding down the street, he was like, I bought that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. He's literally pointing at every apartment complex that we pass as we go down the street. And he was like, "I own all of those. And the one that I'm taking you to right now is 44 unit. You and your wife can purchase. Not only do I know you can purchase it because I believe in you and I've seen your balance sheet, but I know you can purchase it because I own it and I'm willing to sell it to you." And I was like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing. And so a goal that I had in my head that I would do in my 50s, me and my wife were able to accomplish in our 30s. So this man literally shaved 20 plus years off of my life and my goals. And so I'm a very firm believer in hiring a coach to help you. And that's what I do. I help people get their first property or their next property in 90 days or less, which most people think, "Oh, it's going to take me a year." We can automate the whole process, have your team in place, get you profits instantly, and have it cash flowing in 90 days or less. And I'm a huge believer in a coach because they should help you go bigger, better, faster.
Man, that's hey, first off, don't let nobody, nobody need to let that go over their head for it, because you are a coach and you have a coach. And also, you mentioned something about when you pay it. One of my guys says something similar. He's like, when people pay, they pay attention.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. You do have to have some type of skin in the game, because honestly, you won't need, like, you waste, if you're going to take somebody's time from them for them to teach you, they already know. So have some type of value you're gonna give them, whether it's monetary or you do something for them in their business that helps them and makes their life easier. So that's
Right.
definitely something I'm a
Absolutely.
big fan of. But also
Absolutely.
something else that got me with you, how willing you are to just go take action and execute. Like,
Oh
yeah, you
yeah.
might be a little scared, but it don't matter. Like, boom, we out in Detroit now. We living here. Like, ain't too many people that just
It,
go up and leave and just be like, nah, we out. So that's crazy.
oh,
That's dope as hell to see. Because a lot of people are afraid. Like, I remember when I first moved out of my hometown, it was just like, man, it was just like, it is what it is. But you was just like,
absolutely.
all right, it is what it is. I'm gone. And out of that came, and
Yeah.
also the fact of how y'all were able to handle that situation. Of you mentioned that your wife wasn't able to register for the auction, or she forgot, and how y'all found a solution to that. A lot of people they find all the problems in situations, but they don't ever want to find a solution to it. Because
The solution is where the money is.
exactly. So that's very big that I want people to understand. Like some people are not gonna go execute. Like you took action immediately. It wasn't no turn. Like understand the situation at hand. Somebody that's been doing it, that's doing it better than you. They give you the play to go run with, and you go do it. You don't hesitate. Don't
Absolutely.
wait. Don't sit around. A lot of people they'll sit around and
Absolutely.
hesitate, and then a whole year go by, and they're still in the same spot. At least if you go
Absolutely.
fail, even if you go fail, you go way further ahead than if you never took any action at all. And I think that's what
Absolutely.
people need to understand, man. And that's hey for the age, wow, man.
So look, this is the way I see it, right? You're gonna pay for things one way or the other. You're either gonna pay for it upfront with a little bit of money, and in exchange for that money, I want to go bigger, better, faster. Or you're gonna say, look, I'm gonna figure this thing out on my own. I'm gonna bump my head. I'm gonna go in circles. I'm gonna move 2 steps forward. I'm gonna go 1 step backwards. And that's literally your life that you're trading. So you're gonna pay for it no matter what. For me, money was the cheapest thing that I could give up because I knew I can't get my life back, right? And so when we talk about overcoming fear, I give you a little insight on how I was able to overcome my fear of losing money. So on my very first deal, this was an unsuccessful deal. Okay, when I was working in corporate America, first off, I started out working at a company called Zachary Construction, and I was working out at the job site. I was doing 6 days a week, 11 hours a day. I was only getting paid for 40. Right? I didn't have time to cash my check. Only day I had off was Sunday, and guess what? On Sunday I was tired, but I had to wash my clothes, meal prep, and get back into that thing for Monday, right? So that experience made, and I'm going into a plant. We're building an electrical power plant. I'm on site, hard hat and Timberland boots. I'm coming home dirty every day. This is not the life that I wanted for myself. I didn't go to college for this shit, man. That's what I'm telling myself every day on this 1 hour commute and then a 1 hour drive home, right? And so I was saving up my money during that time. And so I didn't have the time. So when we start talking about problem solving, I didn't have the time, I didn't have the experience. But what I did have was the money and the credit. And so I started looking around and I was like, man, I really need to do this thing. So my uncle hit me up and he was like, hey, why don't we do a deal together? And I was like, you know what? That's perfect because my uncle knew a little bit more about real estate and I trusted him. So I was like, bam, that's somebody that I know, like, and trust. We could do a deal together. And I had the money and the credit. Boom. That's a partnership made in heaven. So long story short, I go in, we find a property, I put the earnest money down. The property was only $43,000.
What was it?
Now,
Duplex?
no, it was a single family. It
But
was
still, 40 man.
$43,000. And it had been rehabbed to where it only needed, bare minimum for you to rent it out. And so now knowing what I know, it was a great deal. But I got scared, right? I got scared because I talked to my family members and they was like, you sure that's what you want to do? You sure you can trust that person? You sure you trust yourself? You don't know much about it. You've never done this. You still living. At that time I was living with another uncle, right? And he was like, you still living with somebody and now you're going to buy a house? And, all that doubt set in. And so I backed out. When I backed out, I lost that $1,000 earnest money. And, I went back to work and I'm sitting there in my desk day in, day out, and about 6 months goes by. And I realized that I'm kind of going into this like light depression because I'm going to a job that I don't enjoy every day. And this is just not what I envisioned for myself 6 hours, 6 days a week. I don't see it getting better from him. But what I realized throughout that process is that money is not the most valuable thing I can lose. The most valuable thing you can lose is hope. And that's what I found myself losing sitting at my desk. It was like that I had identified real estate as that investment vehicle that was going to get me out of this, that was going to create freedom for me. And when I walked away from that deal due to a lack of knowledge and confidence, I walked away from that hope. And I sat in those negative feelings for months trying to find myself. And when I found myself, I said, you know what? I'm going to pay for education. So I started going to all the Robert Kiyosaki stuff, Every Rich Dad, Poor Dad, reading all these books that y'all see back here. I constantly worked on myself. Every weekend, I'm in somebody's seminar. I would use all of my PTO time because I'm working 6 days a week. So I'm using my PTO to go to these seminars. I'm using my PTO to go out and learn about real estate. And I just through that one experience of losing money, I was like, you know what? Money ain't the worst thing I can lose. Bet it up. Let's go. And even in that experience, I learned a lesson that was far more valuable than the $1,000 that I lost in earnest money. So I've never lost on any educational process. Even when I hire coaches and they don't give me what I originally paid them for, the value that I take from that experience is always more. Because I'm going to make sure that I get a return on investment. I'm going to make sure that I sit down and do the lessons learned and say, this is what I could have tweaked. This is how I could have done it better. And I'm going to maximize every opportunity. So the biggest thing you can lose is hope. It's not money. And once you understand that, then you're willing to shoot for the stars.
Yeah, that's pressure right there. Hey, I really want to just because it's something that a lot of people I talk to in real estate that you never mentioned you even went into or did, and that's the wholesaling piece.
Oh, I knew you was gonna say it. Oh.
And so I was just curious, like you went straight in because most people I talk to is they start off with wholesaling and usually end up most people don't even end up in the rental game. They end up doing like flips. Why did you ever think about doing like that was never like a thought for you?
You ready? It's gonna make some people mad. You ready?
Oh yeah, I want to hear this.
All right. So for me, my goal was always freedom. Okay. And as a kid, I saw my grandmother, she owned some rental properties. And my dad was the maintenance man. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so my dad drugged me to those properties every weekend. And I was like, dang, I hate this. I ain't never going into real estate. Too much work. Right? I can't play sports. Because my pop said I need to be at work. And then now we over here working on this damn property. I'm fixing hot water heaters, rekeying locks. I don't want to do real estate. Okay. But what I did learn through that process was that if I'm going to do real estate, I'm going to do it like grandma. I'm going to find somebody else to do all of the work. And so when I came into real estate, number one, I did not know that wholesaling existed. Okay. All right. If I had known that, I probably would have tried it. I ain't gonna say probably. I'm certain that I would have tried it because I know me, right? I want to put least amount of money down, get the most return on investment. But now I'm so much further educated in the process that I realize that that's not the route to go. You only go that route if you absolutely have to, because your most valuable asset is your time. And what a lot of wholesalers end up doing is they spend so much time chasing down a property, making the calls, right? You got to make thousands of calls to close on a property. You got to do all of your skip tracing to understand who owns the property. Make sure you get the right person on the phone. Then you got to send out all these mailers and you got to nurture that deal to closing, right? And in exchange, you'll get that fee, right? You'll get your commission, and that commission is normally around $10,000, right? Some do $5,000, but it's normally around $10,000, $15,000. But guess what? they passed that property, they passed that deal off to an investor. And guess what? The investor makes more money off the deal than the wholesaler. And the investor's going to eat off of that deal for the rest of their life. And then when they done eating off of that deal, they're going to pass it on to their kids, their grandkids, and everybody else in their family tree. And so I just realized that, like, that's how you create generational wealth. I saw through my grandparents when I needed money for college, they was able to do it because they had rental properties. So I was just like, I'm going to take that route. I'm not going to take a route where I'm constantly chasing down a meal every, month, every other week. I'm out there looking for deals. I want to do a deal today. I want to spend 90 days doing a deal, and I want to eat off of that deal for the rest of my life. And so that's what made me go into long-term buy and hold rental properties versus wholesaling and even flipping. You get a big check, but you got to hold on. You got to go out and do your next deal if you want to eat again. I decided, let me have somebody else go out and find my properties. Once I get this property, I'm never letting go of it. So I'm going to make a big lump sum of money up front because I'm going to handle the rehab, which makes me get the money that the fix and flipper would have got. And then I'm going to hold on to this thing and let my team take care of all the day-to-day operations on this property. And I'm going to collect a check every month for the rest of my life. And as the value of that property goes up over time, I'm going to continue to collect that equity every year. I'm going to take the tax benefits that come with owning the property, and I'm going to write off my cell phone, my car note. I'm going to write off my utilities. You see all of these books in my office. All of this stuff is write-offs, right? I'm gonna let the tenants pay down the mortgage for me. I'm gonna take advantage of depreciation and the tax benefits associated with that. I'm just gonna take everything that this real estate game has to offer on every single deal. And that's why I decided to be a real estate CEO rather than a wholesaler or a flipper or even a landlord. Because I tell people, landlords don't think like this. Landlords go out and get a property, and then they, find themselves running in a loop trying to, keep up with the tenants. Oh, I got to go cut the grass on this property, and then I got to fix this over there, and I got to chase down my rent over here. I always tell people, think like a real estate CEO. Stay focused on those things that I just went over, the taxes, the income, your leverage, all of that stuff, and you can grow this thing. You can scale it infinitely, as high as you want to go. If I wanted to buy 200 properties next month, I could buy 200 more because I already have the system and the team in place. So think like a real estate CEO, not a landlord, not a wholesaler, not a flipper.
That's big too that you mentioned that, because you also hit on like having a team and having systems is what allows people to scale. So that's something that people gotta understand as well. And it's crazy to me because it's like what everything you're talking about. And you read this book, I'm sure, because you mentioned Robert Kiyosaki. It reminds me of Cash Flow Quadrant. So a lot of people.
That's the best book he wrote, man. Most people love Rich Dad Poor Dad. Rich Dad Poor Dad is great, but I say that's his second best. You got to go to book number 2. Them Cash Flow Quadrants will change your life, man.
When you get to that BNI side, boy, that's when things get different. And now that you're saying it the way you're saying it, it's like, yeah, I guess you really are living on a self-employed side when you're doing wholesale and flip, because you're working in the business and you're not working on the business.
Absolutely.
So people got to understand, once you transition over to that, because me, I'm investing primarily first. Like I'm working on trying to do the business on the side because I have Turo and stuff like that. So working to get things in place. But when you start branching into that business on the side, you actually no longer putting yourself in the business, but you're working on the business and scaling. That's Absolutely. When things take that shift, and that's when you can go reach the financial freedom. Absolutely. And man, I just want to thank you, man, for coming on, man, because this been good, man. You dropping some gems. I'm gonna have to try to reach out to you and see if I can bring you back on, because there's a lot more. We didn't even get into the tax advantages or nothing like that. But what I do want to ask, can you just talk a little bit, real quick, about your coaching program and what you got going on with that?
Yeah. So when I graduated from college, I wanted to be a teacher, right? Okay. That was my passion. But I had engineer student loans, and I realized that engineers they make more money than teachers. and I wasn't really willing to sacrifice myself for the better good of someone else. So I was like, I got to go get this engineering money, right? But my goal has always been to come back and teach people, but not just teach them. I want to do hands-on, show people how to actually do stuff. And so when I retired from my full-time job as an engineer at the age of 29, I've literally dedicated every day of my life since then to developing my coaching program, right? And so what I do is I help people get their first or their next rental property, and I teach them how to do that in a 90-day period. And the whole thing is I'm gonna teach you from the very beginning the mindset that you need in order to be successful at this. Then we're gonna go into how to successfully set up your business so that you have the proper structure so that if you ever get sued or anything like that, you're protected. That way, when you get the bag, you can keep the bag. All right. Then we move into the process of how do we finance these deals? How do we get the business funded so that you don't have to keep coming out of your pocket to do these deals? And then we go into how to build a team so that you don't have to find the properties, you don't have to fix the properties, you don't have to deal with any of the tenants, you don't have to deal with any of the toilets or any of the day-to-day maintenance on it, right? So I show you how to, my whole thing is I'm going to teach you how to grow and how to automate your real estate portfolio. And I start with people, who are at the very, very beginning stages that don't know anything. And so typically what I tell people they need is a 680 or higher credit score and $8,000 to $12,000 to cover your down payment and closing costs. And I got a free guide. It's the first link in my bio. If you click the first link in my bio, there's a guide where I teach you your options for how to fund your deals. And then I also have an ebook that will teach you how I was able to go from owning no properties to retiring at 29 and the steps that you can follow to do the same. So.
Man, that's great. You say you bought your first property like at 26, you said?
Yeah, 26. It was either 26 or 27. I don't remember like how old I was.
But still, you say you left your job at 29. That'll seem like good enough incentive for me right there. 2 years and you financially free and you can go do whatever you want to go do. So
that comes with having a game plan and having a team and a process in place. You don't do that. Like I told you, I bought the first property in February, the next property 6 months later. It took me, believe it or not, that took a long time, right? Because I was like still trying to figure it out. Now I can buy multiple properties at the same time. I literally have been in situations where I will start a company at 9 o'clock in the morning, buy the property at lunch, had a team over there rehabbing and fixing everything by the end of the day, and it's all just streamlined. Boom. So, it's important that you don't just jump out there and get a property, right? That's why I see most people go wrong. They jump out there with no plan, no strategy. They get a property, and now they're putting it together as they go. Well, guess what? Your contractors see that, and they come in and they take advantage of you. They give you, they know that you're a rookie. They see that you don't have a plan. They give you, these high quotes. They take advantage of the fact that you don't know things. They tell you stuff need to be repaired that don't need to be repaired, right? The rehab process takes way longer than it's supposed to, and you paying the mortgage and the lights and the water and the gas during all of this time. What I say is, from day one, before you find a property, we already have that game plan and that team in place. So when you sign the papers, first off, we never buy a property unless we have instant equity. I told you that on all my deals, my very first deal, I got $60,000. I've never done a deal personally that I did not make at least $30,000 on. Dang. I've made millions of dollars on deals. Okay. So I never, ever coach anybody to do a deal where they pay sticker price for a property. We're always going to find a way to negotiate, find a motivated seller, use the deal structure to make sure that we get at least $10,000 of instant profits. If you do all of your deals that way, you're playing with house money from then on. Have a team and a process in place so that when you acquire that property, it's go time for everybody else. And you still just sitting back, maybe say, hey, you got what you need? All right, cool. And that's it.
And so I know now, like the market right now is pretty crazy. At least like it's like a seller's market. Is that still possible to do in this market?
Want the honest answer?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, it is.
That's crazy.
Right?
Okay, yeah. I was just curious because I do
Right?
know that that's been a hot topic lately. Oh, that the market's
Absolutely.
real hot and it's a seller's market. So I'm just curious.
It's all it's all about where you're shopping at and who you're shopping with.
Gotcha.
Okay. So if you're gonna go out to the general market, right? Like let's say for instance, if I was going to Target to buy something, I'm gonna have to pay retail value at Target, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go to Target and expect wholesale prices. So there are tons of people out there who have been living off of the moratorium, right? They ain't been paying their mortgage for 6, 12, 18 months. And they're about to lose their properties. And guess what? Somebody like me and you are going to come in with a great opportunity. We're going to say, hey, look, you're about to lose this property. And when you lose the property, you're going to have a foreclosure on your record, which means that you're going to have a hard time finding an apartment. You're going to have that foreclosure is going to stick with you for at least 7 years. Your credit is going to be damaged, and you're going to have a long recovery process to get back on your feet. Let me help you with that today. Now it's a very sensitive conversation. So you have to know how to have that conversation, when to have it, who to have it with, how to find those people, etc. But when we identify these people in that situation, we're able to come in and provide a win-win solution. Many of these people have been living in these properties for years. So let's say I got somebody that's been living in a property for 10 years, and I'm gonna use a real easy number. Let's say that the property is worth $100,000, right? On the market. That's what people are paying in their neighborhood. Property I could sell for $100,000. I would go, and if I'm competing with everybody else, I'm gonna pay $100,000 for it. If I'm going to them, the absolute most I'm gonna offer them is $90,000. They like, look, when I bought it 10 years ago, I paid 70 for it. So I'm making 20, and I don't have to have a foreclosure. I don't have to rebuild my credit. And you can make this whole headache go away in 30 days or less. Let's do it. Let's do it right now. Let's do it fast. I don't need you to compete with nobody else. There's no competition on this deal. There's nobody else I need to talk to. I'm the decision maker. Let's make this go away. Boom. I'm in that thing. Now I own this property. And like I said, the minimum you made was $10,000. And that was at the moment you signed the paper. So now you have a business that is profitable at the moment you go into business. So most people go out and start these businesses and they hope that they're going to have customers. They hope that it's going to be profitable. That's been the key to my success, is that my businesses are profitable from day one, or I don't start.
Man. Hey. You wasn't convinced to start the conversation. I don't know what else could be said. But I'm gonna go ahead and go on to my last segment, man. I do a talk to the culture segment where I just run off 5 questions to my guests, man. They answer to the best of their abilities. Ain't nothing complicated about it. So first question is just, what does wealth look like to you?
The freedom to do what I want all day, every day, and to be able to take care of the people I love.
Gotcha. I think I know the answer to this next question, but I always get a book recommendation for everybody: business book, money book, some of that nature.
I give you a couple of them. Number 1, you said the cash flow quadrants. Number 2, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I also like, what is it? Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. Okay. You know, I feel like that book, you know, this man coming from being a slave to actually educating himself and freeing himself, hands down, that's been my life calling, and that's what I'm trying to help other people do. So I love that book.
Oh, and the next question, this is for the Black community. So I always ask everybody, what do you think is one thing the Black community needs to improve
on? You know what? My whole thing is I'm really big on self-improvement. If you take care of yourself and improve, work on you every day, then that's gonna spread to your children, your spouse, your family members around you. And then that spreads into a neighborhood. Then that goes into the community, and then that has the impact on the world that we want. So I'm gonna say be a little selfish, because by taking care of you, it's gonna take care of everybody else.
Yes, sir. And next question: what is next for Ed Davis?
I'm really enjoying this coaching thing, man. I have put all investments and properties on pause for a little bit because my goal is to help 1,000 families create financial location and time freedom. So I'm putting all of my financial resources, all of my network, everything, all my time and energy into helping 1,000 families create that financial location and time freedom. So that's what
That's
y'all gonna
dope.
see me all over the gram hollering about, helping you create that freedom.
Yes, sir. And the last thing, do me a favor, my brother. Tell everybody where they can get a hold of you, find you, reach you, plug yourself, plug everything you got going on.
That's what's up. So the easiest way to find me is on Instagram. I'm at Ed Davis the Mogul. Mogul is spelled Mogoal. I got a ton of free content out there, right? I do videos on a regular basis. I do lives twice a week. I call it the Freedom Hour. Well, me and my wife, we come in and we give y'all all of the game about how to get into real estate, right? And then also that link in my bio is going to have tons of free information for you. I got free ebooks and stuff like that. And then this Saturday, I'm having a free webinar, 10:30 a.m. CST. I'm hopping on Zoom and I'm giving y'all the game. Everything that you need to know to get your first property, everything you need to know to create that financial location and time freedom, everything you need to avoid, right? The mistakes you don't want to make on your journey. So you can click the link in my bio, join us in that free webinar, and just keep in touch. I was still responding my DMs and all of that stuff. So reach out to me on social at Ed Davis the Mogul, and I'm gonna help you be one of them 1,000 families that we create freedom from.
Sir, y'all know we'll have that in the show notes. For anybody that's looking to tap in. Man, I just want to thank you for coming on, man. Thank you for coming and dropping these gems, brother. This has been a dope conversation. I'm definitely gonna be reaching out to get you back on because it's just you got so much that you can just provide for the people, man. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
That's what's up, bro. I appreciate you having me, man. We need platforms like this in order to be able to push the culture forward. So when you reached out to me, I didn't care what size, how big, how small the audience is. What I saw was a brother that's dedicated to his craft. You've been putting in the work, and if you got 1, 2, 10, or 10,000 people who recognize that, I'm one of those people, bro. So I'm gonna always support you, and I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you. And as we always say on this podcast, what good is success if everybody around you is still struggling? Each one reach one, each one teach one, man. And we are out.
There we go. Thank y'all. Thank you.